do. Pow, pow, pow. All right, greetings from outside of the survival pod here in the wasteland. What's the topic? Why is it that old people and poor people get so bent out of shape when somebody younger does really well? Like whatever technique they have for business, investing, or however they saved. Why is it people get so bent out of shape about that? I don't suffer from this. And so I'm just going to explain the phenomenon for what I've seen it. Yeah, Freedomville, like, subscribe. Let's get into it. Hey, turn up the video speed. Why do I always say that? Because watch videos faster. If I upload this, you should watch it at least at 1.5, 1.75. Let's get into it. Had a conversation with an individual, and you always run into the people that say, when somebody gets it right and they're 20, 30 years younger than the majority of people, they always go with the same tired phrase. Well, they're just lucky. And the sad part about it is that a lot of times when you actually are talented, if you want to avoid awkward conversations with people, you got to hide your power level. You got to hide your success. You got to hide the fact that you're doing better than the boomers and Gen Xers around you. It's like when I've talked about retirement by 30, most people are like, you give them common sense things like, hey, man, if you're not paying rent, you're not paying bills, you're not doing this, you have money to invest. That piece of property you might want to buy somewhere and someday build a structure on it, you could pay cash for it instead of getting a mortgage. In fact, I've even told people you should avoid buying a house for as long as possible. Live as cheap as possible. And because this isn't something that's like, yeah, bro, that those people over there, the 1%, they cheated you out of something. Instead, it's, well, honestly, you cheated yourself out of something just because you wanted to be popular. And I've got a lot of pushback over the years from that, where it's basically like, it's usually older people and poor people, and even rich people sometimes, if they're doing really well, but it took them way longer. And this is where I say older people. Yeah, well, if we could all be like you, or lucky break. How many lucky breaks are really just someone saving their money, preparing for the opportunities, and when the opportunity comes along, they can actually access it because they built themselves up to be ready for it. Yeah, wow. It's amazing how being prepared actually does it for you. And so, like, when I saw this, some of the conversation I had, a relative of mine, and they were talking about an individual who's done quite well investing. A lot of people would think, does that, because he's younger, does that bother him? I'm like, fuck no. It's like years ago, let me tell you a story. I used to play Magic the Gathering quite regularly, and there was a guy that used to go to the card shop, and his grandparents died, and he inherited a house in what we call the Palm Springs of the North. And he's like, and at this time I was paying off my house. I was moving garbage for a living. And we got to talk, and he's like, well, aren't you jealous that I outright have this house and you got to work for yours? And I'm like, I looked at him and I just kind of was curious. I'm like, why would I be jealous of your good fortune? He's like, well, you work so hard and all this. I'm like, whatever. I'm not going to take a piss on somebody else's good fortune. It's kind of funny because down the road, that guy's kind of a superficial douche, but maybe you could tell that guy was kind of that way from that question. Like, he's looking to get a rise out of people. Now, I don't fault people. If you had some good luck in your life, why would that bother me? If you were smart and intelligent and saved your money and invested well, and you don't have to ever go back to any sort of normal job, like if you're going to do something, it's going to be your passion, your work, that's something people should celebrate. And to some degree, maybe even try to duplicate what they're doing. And the reality is sometimes when you get to those type of people, they'll try to hoard their knowledge because they don't want too many people win. And that's where I think some of those people can become fucking douchebags. It's like, basically like, well, if everybody knows how to do it, then I won't be that special. I won't make the money. That's like an old fisherman hunting thing. Well, we can't let other people know. You see that with some people. But I think the real reason, getting deep down to why so many older people get pissed off about it, is we were sold a fucking lie. We were sold a lie on the regular. You know, you go out and you get a good degree, a good trade, and, you know, you go buy the house, you get the cars, you know, you got a little extra money on the side. But, I mean, let's just really analyze it. The good part of that message was you go out and get a trade. I don't care whether it's college educated or a trade. And you make money. You take your excess money and you invest it into something that has good dividends, that has a good return on investment. How many people's profits were basically invested into, look at my new pick-em-up truck. Well, I got a toy hauler. I got an RV toy hauler, you know, or some house in the city that cost, you know, like $500,000 to $700,000. How much of their so-called investing was really just keeping up with the Joneses? And then you got to really look at it from a reverse mathematics ideal. Where most of your potential profit, your investing money went, was interest payments, car payments. How much on that house loan? How much did you give up commuting to work and back? Gasoline, time not paid. You know, let's just say you're making $25 an hour and you got to give up an hour each way. Well, that's $50 a day times 5 days a week. You add up the numbers over the course of the year and it's no small amount. You know, you add it all up, and most of what could have been the treasure trove that you could have invested, well, you pissed that away. And you did it because everybody else was doing it. And this is where, you know, like I look back at some of these boomers talking, they look down on them. These kids are lazy. Well, what did you do when you had the reins of power? What did you do with it? Oh, sports cars and trips to somewhere, blah, blah, blah. And then some of these boomers get old and talk about the system being rigged. Then they pass on that kind of like, hey, it wasn't my fault that I didn't do anything. They pass on that fucking poisonous line of thinking to the next generation. Then people, it's just like the thing where you have someone raising their kid in like some place where bullets are flying by in Section 8. And they're like, you know, my mama did the best she could. Did she? Did she decide to have you in fucking Section 8? Well, she wasn't planning on Section 8, but my daddy was a prisoner. My daddy was shot, or my daddy just wasn't there. She decided to have a kid before she had a firm foundation. And how's that any different than people that are so-called responsible, but then piss away all their money? So let's just say you did all the quote-unquote right things in society. You worked, you went to college, you got a degree, you work a job, and you were making like anywhere from $75,000 to $125,000 a year, which depending on which decade you're in, that's still pretty damn good money, you know, but you pissed it all away on status nonsense. You know, I mean, the house has to be the one biggest joke I've ever seen. Like, you know, a house is the greatest store of wealth, blah, blah, blah. Houses are so vastly overrated, overinflated in the price of them. And it's a good scam. And if you don't participate in the general scam, you will be criticized. But then down the road, those who didn't fall for the scam, who actually can go out and invest their money, taking, you know, saving on this, save less on groceries here, save less on vehicle that. Well, it turns out their money's making them money. And so you got a lot of people in this country that, you know, if it wasn't for Social Security, it wouldn't have shit coming in. So you got a lot more of them than you got of young minds that are thinking. So a lot of people, collectively, they'll get bitter and they'll say the usual line. Your intelligence, no. That's just luck. That's not what I've dealt with. Like when I told people for ages, like, yeah, drive truck, live in the truck, no rent, no utilities. There's tons of cheap houses all over the Midwest. You know, you can work 1 year and pay cash for a house. You know, it's one of those few degrees you can do where you can be in it for like 3 weeks to get your CDL and 3 weeks of a driver training. You're off to the races. There's not a lot of careers like that anymore. And when I told that basic wisdom back in the day, well, it doesn't have to be trucking. It could be like the trades or something else. What did I get from people? No, life is rigged, blah, blah, blah. And that's where we get into the slow, stupid people. The slow, stupid, usually socialists, no offense. But a lot of you were the group of people that when something practical came along, you wouldn't have none of that. Well, don't be surprised, by the way, those that actually really do make it, they'll hide their power level. They'll act like one of you. Because you know what? It's a hell of a lot easier to get by. See, I'm telling people the truth. You tell people the fucking truth, they'll crucify you for it. You just kind of participate and let people think that you're just as fucking broke and stupid as they are. But you're all intelligent because you're all about the same IQ. That's how people, if we all just, kind of do the same thing, there's a lot of people out there. They're doing a lot better than you think. That's what I'm getting at. And they have to put up this chameleon mask so they can actually function in society. And you know what amazes me about it? We sit there and talk about racism, prejudice, sexism. But every day, people socially shame you if you win. If you use your own mind and you win, or you break out of the system kind of like I have and a handful of others have, everybody will be first. The people that say they want to be the first motherfuckers to tear you down. So that's why a lot of people just, like I said, they hide their power level. And that's why a lot of people, that's like the joke with the 1%. You hate the 1%. And you ask, why don't the 1% teach us these things? And a lot of it is because you won't listen. And the other answer is after probably decades of trying to raise people up through education and everything else, people just throw their hands in the air and say, fuck it. I'm done fighting this uphill battle. What's funny about it is we live in an era where a lot of the information out there is on the internet. Pretty much all of it. If you just have the right clues of what to research, you can become like those people. It's just a choice. And I know some people will go, well, I got kids. Well, fuck, I know a woman that's a multimillionaire who had kids and her whole that goddamn business doing it. She was just lucky. Oh, all her hard work doesn't apparently matter. I know an individual that he has a disabled child, like horribly disabled, and he's built himself up to be quite a young man. I know people that have come through a lot of struggles and made themselves into something. But I could probably point back in my hometown at seas of Section 8 motherfuckers that when they had the opportunity to improve themselves, what do? They sat around, watched TV, social media, and just fucked around. Greatness is a choice, much like failure. And no, sometimes some people really do get struck with a lightning bolt. But statistically, it's pretty fucking rare. You want to be something, you got to want to be it, do it, become it. But you got to do it. I'll just end it with this. It's like this thing I heard about this monk. He trained this young monk, and the monk found enlightenment. And the young blood comes back and he says, Master, thanks to what you've taught me, I have achieved enlightenment. I've learned this. And you know what the old master said? He said, I merely showed you the way. You chose to walk it. You found enlightenment because you chose to go and pursue it. So with all the best information out there, you got to be the one that chooses to make shit happen. Starts off, in my opinion, with learning to be a minimalist. Learn to live off less. And if you want to invest, learn how to invest. Let your money make you money. You want to get some cheap property, pay cash for it somewhere in the country? America, for all the complaints I hear from people, is one of the few places that you could really make it. Just a choice. Number of choices. It ain't luck. It's what you do. Freedom Phil, like, subscribe, take it easy.